So interestingly enough, in South Carolina, legislative votes, they counted legislative votes by voice vote. All in favor, say aye. All opposed, the ayes have it. Yeah. But one day there was a piece of legislation that was read across the desk that would give legislators pay raises. All in favor, say aye. All opposed, silence. And they passed it, and yet to this day you can't find one legislator that said they voted themselves a pay raise. Republican
You don't say.
Republican House, Republican Senate. I went to our Republican Speaker of the House and I said, this is why people don't trust us. And I filed some legislation that said anything important enough to be debated on the floor of the House or the Senate is important enough for people to have votes on the record. So the Speaker pulled me aside and he said, put the bill away. We don't need to have it. We will decide what the public needs to see and what they don't.
So let's back up for a little bit. When did you decide to go into politics, and I guess more importantly, why did you decide to go into politics?
So I was never that political kid. I never cared about politics in high school. I was never in student government, not in college Republicans. I had started doing the books for my family business when I was 13 and didn't know that wasn't normal until I went to college. But really, when times were tough, I learned how to stretch a dollar. I had to figure out what we were going to pay and what we weren't. And when times were good, we never celebrated because you knew bad times were going to happen again. Ended up going to Clemson, go Tigers, yep. Graduated with a degree in accounting, and then worked for a company and 6 of its subsidiaries as the accounting supervisor. And then I got tired of working for the guys down the hall. And so we came back home to the family business. And one day I was complaining to my mom about how hard it was to make $1 and how easy it was for government to take it. And she said, quit complaining about it, do something about it. I did not know you weren't supposed to run against a 30-year incumbent in a primary. I truly didn't. Ignorance is bliss. But once I realized he was related to half the district and I had thrown my head in, the only option was to win. So my husband got in the driver's seat, I was in the passenger seat, we put our 2 little ones in the back seat, and I started knocking on doors and was able to win that State House seat. And truly it was, I thought there were way too many lawyers at the State House and they needed a really good accountant.
Yeah, so then that was just the beginning of your political career, really. So when did you decide to take the next step?
So interestingly enough, in South Carolina, legislative votes, they counted legislative votes by voice vote. All in favor, say aye. All opposed, the ayes have it. Yeah. But one day there was a piece of legislation that was read across the desk that would give legislators pay raises. All in favor, say aye. All opposed, silence. And they passed it, and yet to this day you can't find one legislator that said they voted themselves a pay raise. Republican
You don't say.
Republican House, Republican Senate. I went to our Republican Speaker of the House and I said, this is why people don't trust us. And I filed some legislation that said anything important enough to be debated on the floor of the House or the Senate is important enough for people to have votes on the record. So the Speaker pulled me aside and he said, put the bill away. We don't need to have it. We will decide what the public needs to see and what they don't. And I remember going to my husband that night saying, if I can't even get legislative votes on the record, what am I doing here? And he said, then fight. So I went around the state of South Carolina and said, did you know of all the bills passed in the House, only 8% are on the record? Did you know of all the bills passed in the Senate, only 1% was on the record? So if you didn't know how your House member voted 92% of the time, if you didn't know how your senator voted 99% of the time, how did you know who to vote for when you went to the polls? The people of South Carolina were shocked. Yeah. Now, to put this into perspective, my first year in office, I was chairman of the freshman class. My second year, I was majority whip. My third year, I was on a powerful business committee. My fourth year, I was subcommittee chair of banking. The year that I didn't put the bill away, they stripped me of everything.
Wow.
I was completely blackballed. I could take the well, no one would listen. I could sponsor a bill, no one would co-sponsor. So I ran for governor. Yeah. And one of the first bills we signed into law is now in South Carolina. Everything debated on the floor in the House and the Senate has to have a vote on the record, and we took it a step further and did every section of the budget as well.
And you had a pretty solid record in South Carolina. You're pretty proud of that record.
Yes, very proud. I mean, we went from a 13% unemployment rate to the fact that South Carolina didn't have any industry. All our jobs were in the textile market and they had all gone overseas, and we had to wake South Carolina up. And so I went in there and said, if you're costing a person or business time, you're costing them money. That's no longer acceptable in South Carolina. And we got to work. And by the time I left, we were building planes with Boeing, more BMWs than any place in the world, 5 international tire companies, the largest carbon fiber producer in the world. They were referring to us as the beast of the Southeast, and I loved it. And no unions. I was a union buster the whole time. If there was a company that wanted to come in that was unionized, we strong-armed them and said, we don't want you.
So what would you say your guiding political principles are? Because it's interesting to me, like, you're 13 years old doing the books. So like there's numbers and those things matter. And now we live in this bizarre time where everyone's like, $2 trillion for this. And I just saw this morning, they want to pass another $80 billion to fortify the IRS. Like what? Like, does anyone look at math anymore? Do calculators exist? Like, what's going on here? But did you have a sort of guiding political principle? Like, when did that sort of all come together?
I mean, I really think at 13. Yeah. I mean, I learned the value of a dollar.
Yeah.
And I learned that that dollar, you can only stretch it so far. And so really understanding the value of a dollar, appreciating small and limited government so that people can be successful without government getting in the way, understanding the importance of a good education, and that education not being government responding to money, but government actually responding to kids and allowing families to decide their education. Mm-hmm. And then allowing job creators to do what they do best, which is create jobs. You know, if you give a small business, if small business makes money, they don't go on vacation. They hire more people. And so the goal is you want small businesses to have cash flow so they can spread the tentacles out and do that. You want a strong foreign policy where you're, you know, making sure you're safe overseas and it's not coming here. These are basic principles. It's not rocket science, but it's core values that I think are at the heart of the Republican Party, but they're at the heart of a good America too, if we do it right.
Yeah, so what was it like the day you got the call? Let's flash forward a little bit. The day you get the call, would you like to be the ambassador to the UN? I can only imagine, because there's a very Legion of Doom, scary feeling over at the UN.
Well, you know, the thing people don't know is Donald Trump and I knew each other before. Mm-hmm. When I won the primary for governor the first time, I got this envelope with this great gold trim, and in it was a support check, and there was a note that said, "You're a winner." And so I got on the phone, and we chatted, and we were acquaintances throughout the years. And then 2016 happened, and we had a great slate of talent on that stage. I put my name behind a different horse.
Wait, who'd you back originally?
Rubio.
Okay.
And then that's when Trump tweeted Nikki Haley's an embarrassment to South Carolina. And I turned around and tweeted, "Bless your heart." We always had a great respect for, I knew if you kicked him, he kicked back. He knew if you punched me, I punched back. You know? And so there was a respect there. But after the primary, I threw all my support behind him, and he won. So when we got the call, Reince Priebus said he wants to talk to you about, you know, U.S. He said, "Don't say anything, U.S. ambassador to the United Nations." I said, "Reince, I don't even know what the United Nations does. I just know everybody hates it." And so he said, "Well, he's going to call you." So when he called me, he said, "All right, Nick, are you going to do this?" And I said, "Well," I said, "there'd have to be some changes." And he said, "What?" And I said, "Well, I've been a governor. I don't want to work for anyone else. I would want to work directly with you, so I'd want to be a cabinet member." He said, "Done." I said, "Well, I'm a policy girl, so I'd want to be in the room when decisions are made, so I'd want to be on the National Security Council." He said, "Done." I said, "Well, I'm not going to be a wallflower or a talking head. I need to be able to say what I think." And he said, "Nikki, that's exactly why I want you to do this." And he was true to his word from the first day to the last day. We had a great working relationship.
If you're looking for more honest and thoughtful conversations about politics instead of nonstop yelling, check out our politics playlist. And if you want to watch full interviews on a variety of topics, watch our full episode playlist all right over here. And to get notified of all future videos, be sure to subscribe and click the notification bell.